Hey everybody, Spy4360 here. Today we're going to be going over basically everything you need to know for Switch Axe. I'm not going to really go over elemental builds yet, just because I don't have the hit zone value for a lot of the monsters, and I feel like elemental builds are very situational, depending on the monster you're fighting. So they might, or not that they might not, they're not as good for every monster. Playing raw Switch Axe is just generally better across the board. But I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Before we get into the guide, I'd like to say that I stream bi-daily, so if you'd like to see that, links up there. And we've also got a squad, so if you'd like to join the squad, we do hunts live on stream, so if you'd like to get help or just get some guap, here's the link for it. And without further ado, let's get into this, the Switch Axe guide. So really quick, before we start hitting this guy, the Switch Axe has two modes. You're in axe form and then in sword mode. I'm on keyboard and mouse, so I've got left click, right click, and then control as my morph. I switched that from R because R is kind of cumbersome. And all the old games used control, so it's kind of just what I'm used to. But just translate that respectively. When I say left click, that's your first attack button. When I say right click, that's your second attack button. And then control is your switch. So whatever those controls are on your respective systems, that's what they are, right? So on the left, you can see under our sharpness bar, we have like a sword meter and then like a little axe thing under that, and then like a little sword bar next to the axe thing. It's all pretty simple. Basically, the axe thing is a heavy slam. If you press right click and then you right click 3 times, you see in the top left I can do a wild swing. Or a heavy slam, I'm sorry. Yeah. So if you just right click and then end it early, you don't get that move. You just get one of these. But if you just do 3 of these, you get a wild swing. And the wild swing makes it so that monster parts break 30% faster. And you also deal 30% more trip damage. And then on top of that, when you're in sword mode, your amp gauge charges faster. But it's kind of negligible. Just because you need 2 right-click combos, and then a third right-click after that to get amped. And getting amped is pretty important, so I'm going to explain getting amped on all of the weapon types. Because every single Switch Axe has a file. So I have prepared for you all of the file types. We've got a dragon file somewhere. Yeah, we've got a dragon file, a power file, a poison file, an elemental file, an exhaust file. We're missing it. There's one more. There's a paralysis file. Or maybe I have it equipped on my secondary. I don't. Hello? Oh. Did this lose its paralysis file? That's crazy. This starts out with a paralysis file. Let me go make one of those. So I'm at the smithy. This never had a paralysis file. I don't know if paralysis file is in the game anymore. Which, let me just double check while I have you guys here. Oh no, there is a paralysis file. Okay. Yeah. Let's get this going.
Come back anytime.
Okay. Ooh. There's an arc field. Let me Oh, that's a good one. Okay. But yeah, every single file takes a different amount of swings to get amped. I think the quickest being the dragon file, but I'm just gonna show the different amp times on screen now. Alright, so now I'm going to explain what all of the files do in order of, like, least complicated to most complicated. First off is power file. Basically, your switch axe does a certain amount of your raw, so in this case 220, every hit, and then power file does even more damage. I think it's like a 7% motion value up to a 15% motion value. But we don't have the hit zone, or not the hit zone, the motion values for a lot of these moves yet. So I don't know the exact numbers, but basically the power file deals the most damage coming off of your raw, right? Next up, the next easiest is probably Dragon File. Yeah, just because you can see the numbers, right? So Dragon File, once you get amped, it does an extra 32 dragon damage every hit. Basically, the way elemental damage works in this game is you want to just chop off the 0, right? It just divides it by 10, and that's your damage on hit. So every time you hit with a switch axe, you're dealing a little bit of your raw plus 32 dragon damage. And that's actually not 32 every single time, because elemental works off of both your sharpness and the part of a monster that you're hitting. So like if you're hitting like a Rathalos' head, for example, and he's got like a 30% hit zone for dragon element, you only deal 30% of this damage, right? Yeah, on to the next ones. We've got Poison File. This is the same thing where you chop off the 0, but when you get amped, you deal a little bit of your raw plus 20 poison damage. And this is like building up to an internal buffer to poison the monster. You're not actually dealing 20 poison damage every time you hit. You're building up like a status effect when you're dealing poison damage, right? Same thing with Paralysis. You're hitting for 16 paralysis every time you hit, so it's not 16 extra damage. You're getting a little bit extra raw when you get amped, and then you're getting 16 paralysis to like a hidden counter on top of that to paralyze the monster, right? Yeah, I'd say the next easiest is Elemental Files. Elemental Files is kind of like a mix in between power and then element, whereas power, you just get more raw out of your file, right? Element, you get more element out of your file. So it increases the motion value of your elemental hits, which I think it doubles it, but I don't know the math precisely. Yeah, it did in World, where it just added this value a second time, so you'd be doing 17 and then 17, right? But, Yeah, nobody's released any of the motion values numbers yet. So if you'd like to see like a guide to all the motion values and everything, just let me know, and I'll make a separate guide for that. And then we're going to go on to the most complicated, right? Exhaust file. So if you want to play hammer, but in switch axe form, you've got exhaust file. Exhaust file, when you get amped, does that little bit of extra raw, plus 25 exhaust damage, which is really funny. This is actually one of the best switch axes in base world, because you could secret element sleep onto it, and then with exhaust file, if you're hitting a monster's head, that counts as KO damage. And on top of that, exhaust itself just makes the monster hungry over time, which is funny. So this is a pretty good supportive build, just because you can only really paralyze a monster once, but exhaust has no diminishing returns. Because every time you paralyze or poison a monster, it gets harder and harder to do that again. But with exhaust, you can kind of just do that all the time. So like you can get like 2 or 3 exhausts off in a hunt pretty easy. Yeah. But yeah, you only get the knockout damage if you are amped and you're hitting a monster in the head with an exhaust file. But this one's probably like the most complicated of all of them, because you have to like specifically hit the head, and like if you're not hitting the head, you're doing exhaust damage, which isn't really an understood concept. But from what I've seen so far, the best file in the game is power file, just because you need an absolute god roll to get elemental file going, right? This is my elemental switch axe, and it's very late game. Basically, there's these random weapons that have like different bonuses that you get randomly. So for your elemental weapons, you're going to want to put 3 affinity onto them, and then 20 elemental infusion, which you get from just doing 3 of the same thing. So I did 3 dragons, right? And then when you do random rolls, you want to get as many elemental boosts as possible, which I only got the 30. But if I had gotten all 5, this switch axe, instead of dealing 310, would be doing 430, which with your elemental file is then doubled, which is kind of bananas. It's kind of goofy. But again, I haven't really done any math for that. I'm going to show off elemental combos at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. For the most part, we're going to be talking about raw and the combos that you should be doing. So earlier I showed you getting amped, and it's actually a little bit easier if... Actually, let's just talk about the moveset really quick. So the moveset for switch axe is pretty simple. If you left click 3 times, you get an overhead chop, a side chop, and then a burst, right? If you left click right click, you get a rising slash, which... Let's actually turn this guy on right now. Oops, not automatic. He's gonna throw stuff at me the whole time if I turn on automatic. Okay. I mistimed it. But you get an offset, which parries the monster, and then you can follow that up with a heavy slam, which I talked about earlier. Or just a switch. I mistimed it. Yeah, so you get a morph slash. And then if you use your right click, you get this, which is a wild swing. You can kind of just do this for as long as you have stamina, which this is... It used to be an incredibly good move, but Axe mode is kind of nerfed in Monster Hunter Wilds. In Worlds, it was incredibly good, and then in Rise, they kind of gutted it. just making switch axe a lot better, and then ZSD spamming is kind of the other thing that's very powerful, right? But while you're wild swinging, if you wild swing 3 times, you go into the power slam, which makes it so that monsters, when you're hitting things in axe form specifically, you break parts 30% faster, and you stagger monsters 30% faster. So as an example, the Rathalos, if he's flying, his head, when you hit his head enough, he'll fall down from the air. So if you're hitting him with axe form, that happens 30% faster. Same thing when he's on the ground. If you hit his feet, he'll fall over if you do a certain amount of damage. Having powered axe makes him fall over 30% faster. And then if you're doing the wild swing combo, if you switch, you do that move, which is one of your highest motion values just by itself. I crit there, and I hit a weak point, so that was a little bit skewed. But, yeah, this is one of your biggest damage numbers, that second hit, right? So if you're waking up a monster, you want to do that one. But you want to specifically only hit that second hit. Oh, shit. No, they changed that. No, never mind. Yeah, you want to wake up a monster with the explosion. Which, we'll talk about that later. But that's pretty much it for any of the axe moves. When you do an axe move, you can switch at any time. Just by hitting control, or whatever your switch button is. You can also do a dodge roll and switch, or just walk forward and switch. As long as you're directional inputting and switching, you'll get an attack. If you're standing still, you'll just switch, right? So while you're in sword mode, any attack that you do, if you can see on the top left, that sword bar, any attack that you do drains your meter. And then once you run out of meter, it switches you back. When you're in axe mode, any of the hits that you do to like any monster will refill a bit of sword gauge, and then if you hit switch again, you end up doing this reload animation, which used to be pretty good. Basically in Monster Hunter World, you could not run flinch free and then start this animation, and basically right there, right when you hear the it would reload, right? But now it's at the very end of the animation that it reloads you. So in Monster Hunter World, I would just sit on top of people and then hit the reload button and instantly get that power back, and then your friends hitting you would stagger you, so it would animation cancel that. That's no longer the case. Now your reload happens at the very end of the animation, so you kind of don't want to do that ever. If for whatever reason you do want to reload, like there's just downtime and you're like chasing a monster, if you jump off of a ledge and reload, it's actually a lot quicker. So there's a little bit of tech to that. I'm saying you don't want to reload because there's just a faster way to reload. If you do the triple left click combo, this last move gives you basically your entire sword bar. I say basically because you kind of don't run out of energy with a lot of the good combos that I'm going to talk about later, and I'll show you how. But in sword mode, if you just keep left clicking, you get this combo, which kind of ends at this last slash. You can see it's kind of awkward at the end there. But when you get to that last slash, this one, if you right-click, you get a triple slash. Which used to be the best combo in the game, but they kind of gutted that combo too. They made it a lot slower for it to come out. So usually just a left click into a right click is really good tempo. But that aside, there's also these right clicks, which I showed you earlier. It's how to get amped. When you hit 2 right clicks in a row, you get a heavenward flurry, which gives you a lot of your amp gauge, right? So when you're trying to get amped, you want to hit as many of those as possible. And then, when you're not amped, if you hit left click, right click, you get an elemental discharge. And you have to keep spamming your left click to get that big explosion at the end, right? When you are amped, if you hit a left click, right click, oh, you actually, I don't know if you can do it on this guy. But you get a ZSD, which they don't show it here. But basically you take your switch axe and you grab onto the monster and you stick it into him. And it deals a lot of damage. Or at least it should. It feels like they nerfed that too. But we're going to talk about those combos in a second. In switch mode, or not switch mode, but if you're looking at the focus mode and then you hit a wound, you can switch freely. And there's basically a finisher. So let me actually just get the wound going. I think it's faster if you do the bang. Makes wounds happen faster. But yeah, that last one I finished with axe. And that one I finished with sword. Basically, if you're hitting with axe, you get sword meter back. If you're hitting with sword, you get amp, sword amp. And that's one of the better ways to get amped, is to do the wound attacks, right? Yeah. There's one more move that I forgot to talk about in sword mode. And this is kind of going to be your bread and butter. Or actually 2 more moves, right? So if you hit control... Oops. If you hit control, left click and right click, you can see it on the bottom of the controls. You get an unbridled slash. And you want to hold control. And you get this finisher, which is the big damage. It's insane. This is like literally the best move in your kit, right? If you don't hold it, you get this quick one, which is still pretty good. You only get those extra pops if your sword is amped. So if you're not amped, you only get like the initial 1 hit. That first one, the one that did 190. The extra pops at the end are kind of only there when you're amped. But one more thing before we move on to combos, you have a counter on sword. If you hit control and left click, you do one of these. And this is actually extremely generous, both in like your combo potential. Damn, I ran out of sword juice. Yeah, you can just like do a right click and then instantly cancel it instead of having to short hop. Yeah, it's really good. You can kind of combo these too. So if you do a counter, if you left click again, you get a sword strike. If you try to do a counter after a counter, it actually switches you, right? But if you do a counter and then a short hop, you can immediately counter again. So like if you're in the middle of like a combo, most notably Arkveld has like a 3-hit combo that if you get hit by the first one, it kind of staggers you and you're kind of guaranteed to get hit by the third one, right? You can just counter, short hop, counter, and you just block all the damage from that move. It's kind of goofy. Most notably, after doing a counter, oops. If you switch and then left click, you immediately get the third hit in that axe combo. Likewise, if you do an unbridled slash and then left click, you immediately get that third hit from your axe combo, right? So you can kind of just maintain uptime of unbridled slashing forever as long as you're left clicking. Which is kind of bananas. This is just like the best combo in the game for switch axe. You really shouldn't be using anything else. Also, getting amped, if you do a parry, it gives you a lot of amp. Wow. I paralyzed it. I didn't even know you could do that. But yeah, you can kind of see that you just want to go for parries into the unbridled slash. I'm also going to talk about moves really quick. Or not moves, but equipment skills and like what you should be looking for. This is the part of the video where I want to talk about elemental combos and quick switch, because I feel like elemental combos are going to actually, let me put that on first. My bad. I was gonna say, let me just show you. But elemental combos, I think, are gonna greatly benefit from quick switch. So let me get some quick switch. Sorry, I've got a lot of gems to go through. I don't have any dragon quick switch gems, unfortunately. So yeah, let's just put that in. So quick switch, level 1, 2, and 3 give you 10, 20, and 30% switch speed, respectively. And then levels 2 and 3 give you 10 and 20% switch damage. As you can see, I came out really fast. So you switch a lot faster. So if you do a left click, and sword, you get a double hit. And then if you do a left click, you get a double slash. I think the offset, okay, it doesn't give you a double slash. But if you do a power slam, you also get a double slash. And I think quick switch is going to be a lot better on elemental weapons, just because keeps your combos going a lot faster. Yeah, you can see that this is like insane DPS, but the only downside is a monster's not going to just like sit here and let you hit on them like this. so it's kind of unrealistic. But I'll do some math later with elemental build to see if it's like actually viable. Onto some skills that you should use. Counter-Strike is really good. When you offset an axe, you proc Counter-Strike, which I think this is Counter-Strike. No, it doesn't. This is Counter-Strike. Yeah. When you proc Counter-Strike, you get 25 extra attack, which is pretty good. This is a really good skill for Switch Axe. Max Might is kind of a meme unless you have the Fulgur Anjanath set, because this gives you extra bar, which doesn't proc Max Might when you use it. Because Max Might, when you're full stamina, you get 10, 20, and 30% affinity, respectively. So if you're using Switch Axe, if you're using Switch Axe, you use a lot of stamina, right? But this set naturally comes with Constitution 2 and Max Might and like the extra bit of stamina. So you can kind of keep Max Might up forever with just the head and the arm pieces. But if you're getting Switch Axe and you're not using this set, I wouldn't go for Max Might. I would instead get Max Burst, because Burst is also incredibly good on Switch Axe. As I was showing you before, let me switch weapons again. Burst, when you deal 5 hits, gives you 3 raw, a little bit of elemental damage, and a little bit of stamina, or not stamina, status effect damage. But you need to hit 5 times to proc it, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you get burst. However, in sword mode, if you're amped, 1, 2, 3 does it, because the extra pops you get from your amp actually counts towards getting burst off. So burst is incredibly potent on Switch Axe. Even if you're getting just like 1 point of it, it's really good. Next, let's look at... Oh, this Switch Axe specifically has Power Prolonger on it, which is probably the only good funny skill that all of the Switch Axes come with. And that's why I say that this Switch Axe, the Flesh Hacker, is so good, because it just comes with Power Prolonger. But Power Prolonger makes it so that, I can just show you. It boosts the duration that weapons are powered up. So instead of keeping your amp for like 1 minute and 30 seconds, I'm pretty sure it's like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, which gives you a lot more breathing room. They also have a couple other things on these. Yeah, focus affects the rate at which you charge your file. So it's kind of useless, just because getting charged is really easy. You just need to right click twice on power. Or, this is an exhaust file, so, oh, I just noticed that this is going to be skewed for your exhaust file because it has focus. The dragon file also has focus. Wow. That's kind of fucked up. Oops. Okay. But, yeah, focus just makes you charge your stuff faster, which is pretty good, you know? It's just not as good as Power Prolonger, so I would kind of avoid it. Honestly, this is an endgame set that I'm using for this Switch Axe. You probably, if you wanted even more damage, you don't even need Power Prolonger if you're very comfortable with getting amped. But yeah, the rest of this is kind of just generic raw build, you know? You get Agitator, Antivirus is just good for crit chance, Wex is good for like everything, you know? Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it for skills. Just Power Prolonger is you're going to be your best friend especially learning switch axe is going to be a lot more comfortable using that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for everything that you need to know to succeed on switch axe. I'm going to be including a hunt at the end of this video, just so you can see how I play and like the things that you should be doing. But I'm gonna try to get some elemental switch axe runs going too. But currently, they're kind of a meme. You need to be like switching out your armor set every single time you do a different hunt. And I'm pretty sure because of the hit zones of certain monsters, Raw is still just better for a lot of them. Like Jindahad has incredible hit zones on like his back. And the elemental doesn't make up for it, which is kind of depressing. But yeah, I'll see you guys in a hunt in a little bit, and we'll kill a Monstar. Alright, so we're doing that Arkveld investigation that we saw from earlier. Because Switch Axe, especially Power File specifically, benefits so much from True Raw, you want to be using drugs. Drink that shit. I'm only using demon drugs and not, like, I forget the name of them. Mega demon drugs. Just because I don't have that much, like, pure essence yet. But just the regular demon drugs are pretty good. Oh my god, they can have a turf war? That is not cool. Oh, also, when you're using Switch Axe... Oh, he's angry. If you're hitting multiple entities, you charge your stuff a lot faster. Yeah, you can see I was kind of dodging around there. I lost Max Might. Oh, shit. Another thing to note is... Oh, no. That on me? Thank God. I almost just died immediately. That would have been embarrassing. Yeah, after... Oh, I could have parried that. Oh, you can also see that I'm also, try to offset that. I'm holding my, my aim reticle down a lot. It's incredibly good for, like, adjusting yourself, because a lot of the time the monster will move and you're doing like a right click combo. Yeah, like right there, I got the second hit of my right click off. By adjusting with the aiming mechanic. You can also aim the wound combo. Which makes it easier to hit parts that you need to. I should have went for that. think I get stunned here. Oh no, I'm fine. Ugh, I almost rolled it. Yeah, you want to be careful about parrying his flying move, just because he usually follows it up. And after a couple offsets, you won't be able to counter him fully with an offset, or if you do the sword counter, you're kind of left wide open for another attack. Oh, you can also counter roars, which is kind of goofy. Oh, I forgot I had auto SOS on. I like playing with randoms. That's okay. I feel like we showed off a lot of the concepts in this video. That was a YOLO move, I shouldn't have done that. I rolled into that. That poor cat. Oh, you also get super armor when that move actually starts, which is kind of nuts. Oh my god, it's another switch axe. Oh my god. Actually, the Joker. You see him? Actually, the Joker. It's like Dark Knight Joker. That's funny. Oh, that's money. Oh. My bad. He's going for another mound head. Not like this. That's so messed up. He does not deserve that. Oh, he's ready. Alright. Well, I hope that was useful. I was kind of getting my shit kicked in, but I feel like I showed off the playstyle adequately. You kind of just want to go for parries and then offset as much as you can to proc Counter-Strike. Go. Alright. Let's have you sit here and gamble with me really quick. Damn. Damn. I need an Enhancer Handicraft Jewel, and I've gotten like 5 other Enhancer X jewels. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see any other builds or have me try other stuff other than Elemental Switch Axe, because that's something I'm invested in and that I'll be trying myself, just hit me up. Yeah, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll get you guys sorted. Alright, that's it for me. Bye-bye!